Welcome, dear students, to Rayat Online School Education Program. This is the 25th lecture of biology and 6th lecture from Human Health and Diseases. Myself, Professor P.B. Sargade from Sadhguru Gadge Maharaj College, Karad. And in today's lecture, we are going to discuss two important diseases, that is cancer and AIDS. Now let's start with the first disease, cancer. Now we have heard this disease, the name of this disease, cancer, so many times, and all of us know that this is a very dangerous and dreaded disease. Now what is cancer? The abnormal, uncontrolled and purposeless division of cells may lead to the formation or development of mass of undifferentiated cells, and that mass of cells, it is called as tumor. What we called it as tumor. And when this tumor is malignant, it is described as cancer, and it has ability to invade other tissues. Now one thing has to remember here, that it is an undifferentiated mass of cells, we call it as tumor, and when it becomes malignant, it is called as cancer, and it has the ability to invade other tissues. Now the cancer harms the body when cancerous cells divide uncontrollably to form new lumps or masses of tissues called as neoplasm, except in the case of leukemia. Leukemia is a type of cancer, we oftenly call it as blood cancer. The physicians and researchers who specialize in the study, diagnosis, treatment and prevention of cancer are called as oncologists. Now this thing you have to remember. And the branch that studies this all, it is called as oncology. Now the next, there are two types of tumors. And what are these types? The first type is called as benign or non-malignant tumor, and the second is cancerous or malignant tumor. Now the benign or non-malignant tumor, it grows slowly, may attain quite a large size, but it remains restricted to the site of its origin, and it is localized and does not spread to other parts of the body, and this is called as benign or non-malignant tumor. And the second, which is most important, cancerous or malignant tumor. The growth rate of this tumor is rapid and mortality rate is comparatively more than the benign tumor. Now these are the two tumors, but the malignant tumor or cancerous tumor is very dangerous to the healthy human beings. Now we'll move towards the next point, the benign and malignant tumor. Now here, through the diagrams, it is explained in a well manner. Now in benign or non-malignant type, the mass of the cells, it is covered by a connective tissue capsule. Now here you are going to see the blue colored covering of the connective tissue capsule, and inside it the abnormal cells or the cell mass, it is present in there, and outside this connective tissue capsule there are normal tissues or normal cells are there, and this is called as benign type of tumor. But in other diagram of the cancerous or malignant tumor, you are going to see that there are so many abnormal and uncontrolled developed cells, and they are called as cancer cells, and some normal cells are also visible here. Now to the cancer. Cancer is a malignant neoplasm. It involving unregulated cell growth. Now the types of cancer we are going to study in detail. Now there are types like carcinoma, sarcoma, melanoma, leukemia, lymphoma, myeloma. Now these are the types of cancer, and this diagram on the right hand corner, it represents the development of cancer from a normal cell. Now the arrow pointed is, this is the normal cell. It divides repeatedly and forms a cell mass, and it is called as cells proliferation, and several changes occur and the malignancy develops and it leads to the formation of cancer. Now this arrow pointed part shows the development of cancer. Now we will move towards the next point. Types of cancer. Now which types of cancers are there? As discussed earlier, there are the following types of cancers here, and these cancers, the first type of cancer is called as carcinoma. The second type is sarcoma. The third type is lymphoma. The fourth type is leukemia, and the fifth type is adenocarcinoma. Now these are the major types of cancer, and in short answer questions and long answer questions to the board exam, these types of cancers have asked so many times. So you have to remember these points very carefully. I will move towards these types of cancers one by one. Now, what is carcinoma? Now it is explained here in a well-fashioned manner. The carcinoma is a cancer that arises from epithelial tissue covering or lining the body organs is known as carcinoma. I will tell you once again. Cancer that arises from epithelial tissue covering or lining the body organs is known as carcinoma, and it includes breast cancer, lung cancer, cancer of stomach, and skin cancer, etc. And it is termed as carcinoma. It is forming in the epithelial tissue. Now we will move towards the next point or the next type. It is sarcoma. Sarcoma is the cancer that arises from connective tissue, and that is called as sarcoma. It includes bone tumors. They are also known as osteosarcoma. Muscle tumors, they are termed as myosarcoma. Cancer of cartilage, it is termed as chondrosarcoma, and cancer of adipose tissue, it is termed as liposarcoma. So remember, the sarcoma is the cancer that arises from the connective tissue. Now we'll move towards the next point. Next type, the lymphoma. Lymphoma is the cancer that arises from lymphatic tissues, and it is called as lymphoma. What is this called as? Lymphoma, which is arising from the lymphatic tissue. It occurs in the lymphatic nodes, spleen, and tissues of immune system. Now this cancer is also very dreaded and dangerous, and it occurs in lymphatic nodes, spleen, and tissues of immune system. I will move towards the next type of cancer. Now the next type of cancer or the fourth type of cancer is leukemia. It is a type of cancer which is occurring in the blood, or it is a type of blood cancer in which there is excessive formation of white blood cells. We call them as WBCs or leukocytes in the bone marrow. The people suffering from leukemia have a very high leukocyte count, and the blood contains millions of abnormal immature WBCs or leukocytes that are incapable of fighting the infection. Now students, you are very much familiar that the WBCs or the leukocytes, they are formed through the bone marrow, and the immature or underdeveloped WBCs are formed which are abnormal in nature, and they are millions in number. They are developed and they are incapable of fighting the infection. And there are various types of leukemia such as monocytic leukemia, lymphoblastic leukemia, etc. Now this leukemia is also a very dangerous type of cancer, and it is termed as blood cancer in a normal manner. Now we will move towards the next type of cancer, and it is adenocarcinoma. The adenocarcinoma is nothing but it is the cancer which arises in thyroid, pituitary, adrenal and other glandular tissues. In short, we called it as the cancer of the glandular tissues. Now all of you know that the pituitary gland, thyroid gland, adrenal gland and other glandular tissues inside the body of human being, they are very much responsible for the growth and development of the body by secreting various types of hormones. Now this cancer, it attacks or it develops in the glandular tissue, so it is termed as adenocarcinoma. Now we will move towards the next point. Now these are the causes of cancer. Now I will explain you very briefly the causes of cancers. Now there are 5 causes of cancers which are described in our book. Now these are because of the cancers causing because of the chemicals, because of the radiation, because of the viruses, because of the addiction and because of the oncogenes. Now we will firstly talk about the chemicals. The several chemicals which are known to induce cancer. Now there are some chemicals in the our environment which are inducing the cancer. These include nicotine. Now all of you know that the nicotine is present in the tobacco, then caffeine and the production and combustion of coal and oil, several polycyclic hydrocarbons, some sex hormones and steroids, if given, are secreted in large amounts, may cause cancer. Now these chemicals, they cause cancers. Breast cancer seems to have hormonal relationship as discussed in this point. It is more commonly observed in women who avoid breastfeeding. Now this is because of the chemicals. Now the second cause of cancer is the radiation, and the X-rays, the gamma rays, the cosmic rays, the ultraviolet rays, etc. are considered as carcinogenic agents and they induce cancer. The incidence of skin cancer is higher in the people working in very sunny areas due to UV radiation and in the sunlight, and so also the doctors or the radiologists who are working with the X-rays, they are also prone to have developed cancer because of the radiation. Now this is the second cause of cancer. Firstly we have studied because of the chemicals, and second because of the radiation. Now third because of the viruses. The viruses causing cancer have genes. Now the viruses have genes called as viral oncogenes or V-onc genes. Remember this point, this is asked for multiple choice questions so many times. Viral oncogenes or V-onc genes, and these viruses are also called oncogenic viruses. What are called as these viruses? As oncogenic viruses. Example, EBV or Epstein-Barr virus, HPV or human papilloma virus, etc. Now the fourth cause of cancer is the oncogenes. Now this is very much important. Oncogenes, the several genes which are called as cellular oncogenes or C-onc genes or proto-oncogenes have been identified in normal cells, which when activated under certain conditions could lead to oncogenic transformation of cells. Now this point you have to remember that these genes, they are previously present, but when they are activated or when they got activation, they could lead to oncogenic transformation of normal cells. So these oncogenes, they are also much responsible for the development of cancer, and it is one of the causes of formation of cancer. And last point in this causes of cancer is addiction. Different types of addictions like smoking, chewing of tobacco. As discussed earlier in the chemicals, causes of cancer, chemicals, in this point, the addiction like smoking, chewing of tobacco lead to cancer of mouth because of the nicotine, and cancer to the lips and lungs. The alcohol consumption may result in cancer of esophagus. The alcohol consumption also leads to the cancer of esophagus, stomach, intestine and liver. The drugs also causes cancer. Example, marijuana and anaerobic steroids, etc. Now these are the causes of cancer from where the cancer may develop inside the body of a normal healthy human being. Now we will move forward. Now this is a diagrammatic chart where the name of the carcinogen and the organ affected is given. Now this chart is in your book and you have to study in detail this chart. Now the first carcinogen is soot, and it leads to or it affects the skin and lungs. Then the second carcinogen is coal tar, or it is also called as 3,4-benzopyrene in the biochemical language. It affects the skin and lungs. Then cigarette smoke, this is N-nitrosodimethylamine, it affects to the lungs. Then cadmium oxide, it affects the prostate gland. Then alpha toxin, a metabolite of Aspergillus flavus, a mold, it affects the liver. Then 2-naphthalamine and 4-amino biphenyl, it affects the urinary bladder, the cancer of urinary bladder. Then the seventh carcinogen is mustard gas, which affect the lungs. Then the eighth carcinogen is nickel and chromium compounds, and it affects lungs. The ninth carcinogenic agent is asbestos, and it affects the lungs and develop the cancer of lungs inside the healthy human body. The 10th carcinogen is diethyl asbestos or DES. It is affecting the organ vagina. Then the 11th carcinogen is vinyl chloride or VC, and it affects or develops the cancer of lungs, liver. So these are the carcinogens, and these are the organs which are affected by these carcinogens, and these may ask into the multiple choice questions. So you have to remember these carcinogens and the organs affected. I will move forward. The treatment of cancer. Now, how this cancer is treated? Now, there are various methods for the treatment of cancer, and there are various cancer hospitals developed in recent years throughout the India and throughout the world for tackling the cancer. And the first treatment of cancer, it is chemotherapy. Now, what type of treatment is done in chemotherapy? The chemotherapy comprises administration of certain anti-cancer drugs. The anti-cancer drugs check cell division by inhibiting DNA synthesis or are more toxic to cancerous cells than to normal cells. Now remember this point, that these chemotherapy or the drugs which are used in the chemotherapy, they inhibit the DNA synthesis, or they are more toxic to the cancerous cells than the normal cells. So the cancerous cells, they are disrupted or destroyed, and the normal cells, they remain as it is. The chemotherapy has some drawbacks also. The chemotherapy may lead to hair loss or anemia, but both get corrected after the treatment is stopped. When this treatment of chemotherapy is stopped, the hair loss and anemia got corrected. Now the next type of treatment of cancer is radiotherapy. Now this therapy is very prevalent in the treatment of cancer. It is used in addition to chemotherapy. In radiotherapy, the basic principle is to bombard the cancerous tissue or cells with the rays from radioactive materials, and for treatment the cancer tissues or cells are exposed to radiations from radioactive materials. Now, which are these radioactive materials? Such as cobalt, then iridium and iodine. The rays, X-rays, gamma rays and charged particles are also used to destroy the cancerous tissue or cells, but cause minimum damage to the surrounding normal tissue or cells. Now I will explain you in detail the radiotherapy. Radiotherapy is the bombardment of cancerous tissues by the radioactive materials or radioactive elements. Now what they do, this radioactivity destroy the malignant growth or the cancerous tissue or cells, but they doesn't harm the normal tissues or cells and cause minimum damage to them but maximum damage to the cancerous tissues. So this theory, radiotherapy, is used in treatment of the cancer. Now we'll move towards the next type of treatment, and this treatment is surgery. Now this is a very primitive type of therapy which is used in the treatment of cancer, and it is found to be less effective in various types of cancer, but effective in some types of cancer. In surgery, the entire cancerous tissue or cells are removed surgically. It has limited utility as discussed earlier. In certain cases, such as breast tumor or uterine tumor, the surgery is most effective because it is localized and that tumor can be removed surgically, and it may the patient may get rid of that tumor. The surgery is most effective at this case, but other treatments are also given to kill any cancerous cell that may have been escaped in surgery. All of you know that the cells are very minute and microscopic. So the cells, the cancerous cells or the tissues which escape the surgery, that may have been escaped, they are also killed by other treatments. So the surgery is used in the cancer. Now the next type of treatment is the immunotherapy. Now the immunotherapy, the tumor cells have been shown to avoid detection and destruction by immune system. Now this is a very important point, because tumor cells, they conceal them and they avoid detection and destruction by immune system. Therefore, the patients are given substances called as biological response modifiers, such as alpha interferon, which activates their immune system and helps in destroying the tumor. Because all of you know that immune system is the first line of defense against any infection or any abnormality inside the body. So this biological response modifier alpha interferon is used to activate the immune system of the infected patient or to the cancer patient, and it helps in destroying the tumor. Now we'll move towards the next point, the supportive therapy. Now this supportive therapy is also very important, and as the name suggests, it supports all these above therapies, and the supportive therapy is used to treat symptoms of cancer and side effects of cancer treatments. The objective of this therapy is to improve the quality of life of cancer patients. This therapy varies depending upon condition of individual patient. I will explain you. The supportive therapy, all of you know that the chemotherapy, radiotherapy, they are used to the cancer patients. Now these all therapies have some drawbacks or some side effects. Now these side effects, they are eliminated in this supportive therapy. So this therapy is also important for improving the quality life of cancer patient. So these were the therapies which are used to treat the cancer patients. I will move towards the next point. This is the Tata Memorial Hospital, which is situated at Kharghar, Mumbai, Maharashtra in India. It is a special cancer treatment and research center which is closely associated with the Advanced Center for Treatment, Research and Education in Cancer, and it is recognized as one of the leading cancer centers in South Asia. It is an autonomous body funded and controlled by Department of Atomic Energy. Now remember, this comes under the Department of Atomic Energy, Government of India, which also oversees the administration of this institute since 1962. Now this extra information is given you because in India, various institutes, they are developed for the treatment and detection and research for the cancer patients, and this is the one leading institute, the Tata Memorial Hospital, which is in the Mumbai, and it studies and treats various cancer patients throughout the India and from abroad. Now we will move towards the next disease, and this is very also important disease and very dreaded disease. We called it as AIDS. Now what is AIDS? AIDS is nothing but the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. It is called as AIDS, and it is usually fatal illness caused by a retrovirus. It is ssRNA, known as the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. Now the first case of AIDS was detected in United States in 1982. Now you have to remember about the AIDS. The acquired immunodeficiency syndrome is also termed as AIDS, and the retrovirus or the RNA virus, which is known as human immunodeficiency virus or HIV. Now the structure of HIV. Now here the diagram and its explanation is in front of you. Now on the right hand corner of your screen you are observing the HIV virus. Now this HIV virus is roughly round in shape, and what is its structure we are going to see in detail. This HIV is about 100 to 140 nanometer in diameter. The diameter of this virus is near about 100 to 140 nanometer in diameter. It is spherical in shape. It is structurally spherical in shape. The virus particle shows centrally located two ssRNA. Now these S-shaped RNAs, they are present inside the center RNA molecules along with reverse transcriptase enzyme. Now the enzyme present in this is reverse transcriptase enzyme. All of you know the functioning or the use of reverse transcriptase enzyme. It is covered by two layers of proteins. Now two layers of proteins, they are covering this virus. The outer layer is of matrix protein. The outer layer, as discussed here, this is the outer layer of matrix protein. It is called as P17, while in inner layer is called as capsid protein or P24. Inner layer is capsid protein, or it is also called as P24. Over the matrix protein layers, there is an additional layer of lipids impregnated with glycoproteins GP120 and GP41. Sorry. Now here they are, and they are present GP120 and GP41, and they are present over the matrix protein layers. The virus replicates in actively dividing T4 lymphocytes and can remain in a latent state or stage in the lymphoid cells. Now this point is important. The virus replicates in actively dividing T4 lymphocytes. It attacks the T4 lymphocytes and can remain in a latent state or stage in the lymphoid cells. The virus has unique ability to destroy human T4 lymphocytes. As told you earlier in the previous point, the virus has the unique ability to destroy human T4 lymphocytes. So this virus becomes more dreaded. Now next, after the structure of HIV, now the next point, HIV, where the HIV is found. The HIV is found in greater extent or the greatest extent in the higher concentration in blood than in the semen or seminal fluid. and in the cerebrospinal fluid or CSF. Now remember here, these are the liquid materials of the body. All of you know that the blood is the fluid connective tissue. It is more in concentration in blood, in semen, and in cerebrospinal fluid or CSF, which is present in the brain. Now here it is found in great amount, but HIV is found in lesser amount in some extent in tears, some extent in milk, in urine, in saliva, in cervical and vaginal secretions. They are present in some amount in the tears, milk, urine, saliva, cervical and vaginal secretions, but remember that they are more in concentration in blood, semen and cerebrospinal fluid. Now the next point is mode of transmission of AIDS. Now this point is very much important. Now what are the modes of transmission of AIDS? Now the first point is unsafe sexual contact. Now this is considered as the most common mode of transmission for the transmission of human immunovirus or for the disease of AIDS. The unsafe sexual contact including oral, vaginal and anal sex, unprotected sex, oral, vaginal and anal leads to the transmission of HIV. Then via blood transfusions or needle sharing. Now this happens previously because nowadays very neat care is taken for the transfusion of blood, and needles are not shared. Instead, disposable needles they are used. Now the third point, from mother to child, and it is also called as transplacental. Now this is also an important mode of transmission of the HIV or AIDS. A pregnant woman can transmit the virus to her fetus through their shared blood circulation, or a nursing mother can transmit it to her baby from her breast milk. Now remember this point, because all of you know that the baby or the child is developing inside the womb or uterus of the mother, and the mother and the child, they are in contact with each other through the placenta and through the umbilical cord, so they have a shared blood circulation. Now it may transmit the HIV virus to the developing baby, so also the infected nursing mother can transmit it to her baby from the breast milk. Now these are the modes of transmission of the HIV. I will move towards the next point. Other methods of spreading of the virus are. Now there are other methods of spreading of the HIV. Now these are the first, rare, and they are rare and include accidental needle injury. Now this happens with the surgeons and with the doctors. Now it includes the accidental needle injury. If they are treating or undergoing the surgery, they are doing the surgery of a HIV positive patient, and if accidental needle injury occurs, now these are very rare cases. The artificial insemination with infected donated semen and transplantation with infected organs. Now the artificial insemination, if the semen it is taken from the infected donor, it may happen, and the transplantation with the infected organs, and these are very rare cases. Nowadays very good precaution is taken before transfusion of the blood and then before transplantation of the organs. The test of the donor is taken for the HIV, and if the test is negative, then the organ donation or organ transplantation is done. AIDS virus has also been found in, as discussed earlier, in the urine, in the tears, in the saliva, in the breast milk, and in the vaginal secretions, but it seems not to be transmitted by these fluids unless it gets into injuries. Now there should be injuries, and if they got transmitted or they mixed with these injuries, they are got transmitted. Now the next point, the clinical manifestations of the AIDS or of the cancer. The clinical manifestations, or simply the symptoms of AIDS, have been classified into 4 broad categories. Now, which are those 4 broad categories, or which are the symptoms? The first is the initial infection. Now, this question has asked so many times in our previous exams, so you have to remember very carefully. The initial infection with the virus and formation of antibodies, usually it happens 2 to 8 weeks after initial infection. Now it happens in the 2 to 8 weeks. Now remember this duration, 2 to 8 weeks after initial infection. Now the second clinical manifestation is asymptomatic carrier state. Now this carrier state is found in so many patients which are infected or which are transmitting the HIV. Now this asymptomatic carrier stage, what is it? In which no signs of disease are seen. Now in these patients, no signs of disease are seen in these patients, and the incubation period, it ranges from 6 months to 10 years. Now this incubation period in these asymptomatic carrier patients or people, it ranges from 6 months to 10 years. Now this duration is very much higher, and these people, they are oftenly termed as asymptomatic. Now the third symptom or clinical manifestation, the AIDS related complex, or it is called as ARC, with one or more of the following clinical signs: the recurrent fever for longer than 1 month, then fatigue, unexplained diarrhea, night sweats, shortness of breath, loss of more than 10% body weight, etc. Now this is very much important. If the person is infected with the HIV or that person has developed AIDS in its body, it shows recurrent fever for longer than 1 month, then fatigue, then unexplained diarrhea. Unexplained diarrhea also happens. Besides treatment, regular treatment of the diarrhea never stops. Then night sweats, shortness of breath, the patient cannot breathe properly, then loss of more than 10% of body weight. It is also an important symptom in the AIDS. Now the fourth point is, the AIDS is the end stage of HIV infection. Now this was, we were talking about the HIV infection. Now it leads to, this HIV infection leads to the AIDS. We call the disease as AIDS. It is characterized by life-threatening opportunistic infections like pneumonia, tuberculosis, Kaposi sarcoma, etc. Now remember, this HIV or acquired, the HIV virus leads to the formation of acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. As the name suggests, immunodeficiency syndrome, and because of the deficiency or the destruction of the immunity system, other opportunistic infections like pneumonia, tuberculosis and Kaposi sarcoma, they attack to the body of that person or to the AIDS patient, and not because of the AIDS but because of the pneumonia and tuberculosis and Kaposi sarcoma, the patients may die. Now this was about the clinical manifestations of the AIDS or acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. I will move towards the next point. The next point is the preventive measures. Now all of you know that before treating the patient or before treating the disease, we have to take preventive measures in the society. So because of that, the disease never happens, or disease never occurs, or disease never infects the patient. So these are the preventive measures. What are the preventive measures? The disposable needles and syringes should be used, and they are disposed of properly and immediately. Remember, disposable needles should be used, and nowadays it is a protocol. It has become a protocol or a standard operating procedure that disposable needles and syringes, they are used and they are disposed of properly and immediately. And so because of this, the transmission of HIV through the needles and syringes have reduced to near about 99%. Now the second is, the sexual habits should be changed immediately. The sexual habits of the people should be changed immediately, because the sexual habits, multiple sex partners and the unprotected sex, it leads to the transmission of STDs, that means the sexually transmitted diseases, so also the transmission of HIV or AIDS. And use of condoms, it leads to the safe sex, and these practices, they can inhibit the development of AIDS or infection of the HIV. The high risk groups should refrain from donating the blood. The peoples who are in high risk should refrain from blood donating, and the toothbrushes, razors, other articles that can become contaminated with blood should not be shared. Now, you should not share toothbrushes, razors and other articles which may become contaminated with the blood. You should not share them. Now, this practice you have to observe. Then, before receiving the blood, ensure that it has been screened for not containing HIV infection. Now, it is, as I told you earlier, now it is a standard operating procedure, because before the donation of the blood, or the donator or the person who is donating the blood, it is tested for the HIV and other diseases, and so also before transmitting or before giving the blood to the patients, it is also screened, and this practice leads to the lesser HIV infection, and it is nowadays it is done as a standard practice. Now, routine screening must be done for blood donors as discussed earlier. Then organ donors, kidney, liver, lung and cornea donors, they are also screened. Then donors of semen and growth hormones, they are also screened for the HIV virus. The patients undergoing hemodialysis and female in high risk group who are pregnant or contemplating pregnancy, they are also screened, and they are also advised to take the proper precautions. Now, these were the preventive measures of the AIDS. Now we will move towards the next point, the diagnosis of the AIDS. Now it is called as the laboratory diagnosis. At first, a test is used to detect the HIV antibodies. Now all of you know that the antibodies, they are produced inside our body in order to, in response to the antigens. Now these antibodies, they are detected, while a secondary confirmatory test is used to weed out any false positive reports. The first test, it is ELISA. Now remember, the test which is used to detect the HIV antibodies, it is nothing but ELISA, E-L-I-S-A, ELISA, and it is nothing but enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. What it is called as? Enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. And the confirmatory test, which is usually a Western blot. This is the ELISA, is the test to detect the HIV antibodies, but the confirmatory test is also taken, and it is usually a Western blot test, is a highly specific test. It is a highly specific test, and it is based on detecting specific antibody to viral core protein and envelope glycoprotein. Now this Western blot test, it is used as the confirmatory test. Now you have to remember these two tests, ELISA and Western blot, because so many times it is asked in the multiple choice questions in the board examination. Now we will move towards the next point, the treatment of AIDS. Although the AIDS has no cure, certain medicines called as antiretroviral drugs can help in reducing the viral load and prolong the life of HIV patients. Now there is no ultimate drug to treat the HIV, but this drug can prolong the life of HIV patients. The examples of these drugs used in antiretroviral therapy or ART are TDF or tenofovir and EFV, efavirenz, then lamivudine or 3-TC, etc. Now these three drugs, you have to remember the name of three drugs because they may be asked to the MCQ questions, and that therapy is called as antiretroviral therapy, and these three drugs, they are used for extending the life of the HIV patients. Then the advancements made in biological sciences have helped us to deal effectively with many infectious diseases. The use of vaccines and immunization programs have enabled us to eradicate completely the dreadful diseases like smallpox. Now, one thing before ending these diseases, I have to told you that the vaccination, the program of vaccination, nowadays you are going to learn, and you are hearing the corona vaccination. Now the corona is the pandemic which we are observing since last 1.5 years. Now this vaccination and immunization program, it has enabled us to fight against these dreadful diseases. And we have conquered one disease in the past, and it is the disease of smallpox. A large number of other infectious diseases like polio, diphtheria, pneumonia, and tetanus have been controlled to a large extent by the use of vaccines. Now, remember, the vaccines have a very crucial role in controlling the diseases. The biotechnology is on the verge of making available newer and safer vaccines, and discovery of antibiotics and various drugs has also enabled us to treat effectively infectious diseases like tuberculosis. Now, this is about the diseases we have studied in the human health and diseases topic, and here we end the diseases, but we have another lecture remaining about the adolescence and addiction, and we are going to see in our next lecture. Thank you all of you.